Today I'm going to try to draw this not-so-secret garden in Tbilisi, Georgia, and why this? Well, why not? It's beautiful, which is more than enough for me to attempt it, but it also has a few of my favorite things, namely a slice of architecture, a pinch of foliage, and a weird shape in the foreground that probably won't turn out all that great, but let's find out together. And if you're new here, I'm learning to draw while traveling the world. That's the concept. If it sounds interesting to you, subscribe to the channel. That'd be awesome. So this drawing was one of the more enjoyable ones to build out. Thankfully, I didn't have to concern myself too much with depth because I have these two very distinct layers. The background has these arches, which is part of the garden hall, as well as the trees, and then this fountain area makes up the entirety of the foreground. Something I've learned about this process is how difficult and distracting it can be to have too many layers to consider, especially when each layer has its own variety of features and not just one thing, like trees in the distance or a wall up close. When everything is everywhere, I find it incredibly difficult to focus, and that results in some erratic behavior. So today, I have this clear boundary breaking the layers up, and I feel confident that I can round out one before moving on to the other. I chose the background first, and I did that because I liked where this slanted roof came into frame, and I didn't want to push that out had I started elsewhere. That being said, having started with these pillars, I was aware of my recent let's say, encounter with the pillars from the other day, which was my least favorite drawing to date. To avoid repeating that debacle, I went into these with a lot more simplicity and smoothness, never considering exact details or just how perfectly correct any one piece may have been. Ultimately, I think my success here, at least compared to the other day, came from the understanding that I had more to attend to. It wasn't just the pillars, but an entire scene. So I think in some way that might have helped me relax a bit, motivating me to get something down, even if it wasn't perfect, so that I could manage everything else. I think these pillars, along with the arches, more than make up for that other drawing. I think I've redeemed myself. In stark contrast, we have the fountain, which did not make its way onto the paper with confidence. If anything, I found myself becoming anxious and wound up about it, you'll see, because shapes like this one never seem to work out for me. In fact, I think it was the third drawing on this channel where I attempted to draw a lantern in South Korea, and thank you if you've been watching that long. And to be candid, I don't remember that object, that lantern, being that much worse than this one. Just because I don't remember it that way is meaningless because I can't imagine that actually being true, but it certainly feels that way. And I think that feeling comes from my relative confidence regarding a more rigid architecture. So the structure in the background has pillars and arches and whatnot, but for the most part, they have this two-dimensional feel to them. They're all very straight and structured. The fountain, on the other hand, at least in person, in 3 dimensions, feels round. So my shading needs to be well done to imply that, which it's not. And I'll talk about that more in a minute. Additionally, you can tell that I'm kind of in a trance staring at this fountain because every individual shape or curve or detail gets way too much of my attention, and that manifests on the paper. The fountain became this stretched out object with all of its components exaggerated, and I really wish I noticed it in the moment because maybe I could have caught myself before it was too late. Unfortunately, I didn't, and after a certain point, I don't think anything could have been done to remedy it. Lastly, as mentioned, the shading. It is disappointingly lacking in the fountain. I recognize that, but I wonder, if you take a look at the rest of the drawing with all of its minimal or downright non-existent shading, how would I go about creating this obviously 3-dimensional shape, the fountain, among everything else that is also 3-dimensional, but doesn't require the same level of shading to suggest it? And maybe the answer is as simple as Like, keep the fountain minimal too. Don't shade it at all and it will look like a fountain. But is that true? I'm not sure. So I'm curious. The building, for instance, if I wanted to imply its depth, I can utilize perspective. I don't need to darken this inner area, for instance, if I can use certain lines to suggest that it's back behind the pillars. But I could, which probably would have made this look that much more realistic. And maybe I should have. But is there a similar method for something like a spherical object, especially one with this type of lip? If you have any insight into this, please let me know in the comments. That would be great. Cool. So remember those layers I mentioned? Well, I like the back one. The front one, not so much, but you already know why. Also, you have eyes. In contrast, I'm pleased with the tree in the background, though I wish I'd kept it super clean and empty because I thought it looked great being more like negative space. What do you think about that? Also, what do you think about the higher speed, shorter video thing? Let me know in the comments. And if you're enjoying this series, subscribe to the channel and like the video if you liked it. Anyway, I appreciate you for taking the time to watch this one, and I'll see you tomorrow. Thanks.